15-minute little meditation practice just to bring your body back into a more relaxed state, easing some chronic tension that you may have through breath and sensory practice. So go ahead and start laying on your back, and I'm just going to talk you guys through it. You can close your eyes if that feels right for you. Find a comfortable position on your back so that your body almost doesn't feel anything. So if you need to use some pillows underneath your head or your knees, get yourself really, really comfortable and in a much relaxed state. So as we go through, we're going to do a body scan that takes you from your feet to the top of your head and then back down again. Take notice of how your feet are touching the floor. What part of your foot is touching the floor? Is it the side of your heel, directly behind your heel, the inside of your heel? Where did you naturally fall? Are they equal on both sides? Did one side fall in one way and the other side fall in another way? And no judgment, just noticing. Take a few breaths into those heels. So as you exhale, it's almost like you've sent your air all the way down your legs, and it's actually exiting out through the bottom of your foot. One more breath. Great. Through your visualization, feel your ankle bone, your inside ankle bone, and trace with your mind's eye, trace around your ankle 4 times on each side. So that's just as if someone's running their finger around your ankle, and you're feeling that tracing from the inside ankle bone to the outside ankle bone. And then continue that circle up through your calf and your shin bone. So you're getting this spiraling happening up to your knee joint. And then we'll pause at the knee joint. At the knee joint, you have a couple bones that come together here. You have your shin bone. You have your shin bone's assistant, we'll just call it. You have your thigh bone and your kneecap. Your kneecap actually floats over the top of your knee joint, and it's suspended through some tissues there. If you contracted your quads, if you squeeze the top of your thigh, you may feel your kneecap pull up towards your hip joint. And then when you relax it, your kneecap will sort of shift downwards. And we'll squeeze the quad again. You'll feel the kneecap rise up, and then relax the quad and the kneecap draws down. Good. One more time. Squeeze the quad, pull the kneecap up, and then relax the quad and let the kneecap go down. Nice. So from here, we'll trace up the thigh. We're going to do it the same way that we did the calf earlier. So start by winding around the knee and then spiraling up the thigh. And you'll do about 10 spirals before you get to the hip. So take your time. Yeah. And then we come to the hip joint. And the hip joint, you can think of this joint like a mortar and pestle. So you have a bowl, which would be your hip socket, and then you have your little grinding tool, that would be the top of your thigh bone, your femur. And they fit into one another very nicely. With that ball and socket joint, you should be able to move your thigh bone, kind of spiraling it inward and outward. You can try that here in a subtle way. Roll the thighs in towards one another and then roll the thighs out from one another. This may also make your heels roll on the carpet or your mat, roll to the inside of your heel and the outside of your heel. So you can notice how movement in the hip joint changes movement and sensation down at your heel. Notice if one side feels different than the other. Can you internally rotate? Can you draw the thigh bone in towards the center further on one side than you can on the other, and vice versa? Can you open up the hip more on one side than the other? And again, using your feet as clues to how that range of motion is working for you. If you traced yourself back to your tail, so right underneath your pelvis that you're laying on likely, there's this triangle-shaped bone called your sacrum. And you might be feeling, if you're laying on your back, you're probably feeling pressure on the sacrum. In reality, the sacrum is a little bit curved. So the tip of that triangle bone is drawn kind of up into your pelvis. And then it kind of curves down to lay flat on the mat. But if you were to rock your pelvis forward and backward, you'd be rolling over that curve of your sacrum. As you work through this, notice how the rocking of your hips or your pelvis changes the shape of your low back on the mat. Your low back might press into the floor when you rocked back on your sacrum, and then when you take your sacrum forward, maybe your low back arches off the mat. So just noticing that relationship there between your pelvis and your lumbar spine. Trace up your spine a little bit higher, and we come to this middle part of your spine called your thoracic spine. And off each 12 thoracic spine, you have ribs that jut out from each side. So if you were to side bend a little bit, wiggle your spine side to side, you may visualize how these ribs branch out from your spine and create this accordion-like structure. And as you side bend to one side, the accordion opens, and you side bend to the other side, and that side opens. While we're here, let's take a couple deep breaths. Inhale through the nose and notice how the air enters into your lungs and actually pushes out on that rib cage. And then as you exhale, the rib cage collapses a little bit. Inhale, expand your rib cage. Exhale, close the rib cage. Inhale, expand the rib cage. Exhale, close the rib cage. Go ahead and breathe in and out a couple times. And imagine this pumping and movement of the bones in both the rib cage and your spine. That subtle movement that happens with every deep breath that you take. And so utilizing your breath as a way to mobilize the joints of your spine. One more time. Let's come up the spine a little bit higher and into your neck. Notice that the neck might be lifted off of the mat a little bit. That's normal. A little cervical extension is natural. And we're actually going to wrap around and kind of in that area. Feel free to use your fingers as you're tracing along with this, or you can visualize in your mind's eye. Right at the base of your neck, at the top of your sternum, you have wings coming off of your sternum called your collarbones. And your collarbones wind sort of in an S shape out to the tips of your shoulders. And so either tracing your collarbones with your fingers or imagining light bouncing from your sternum in the center of your chest out to the tip of your shoulder blade and back and forth and back and forth. Light traveling through a winding S curve of a bone. Imagine the end of that S curve at your shoulders, the tips of your shoulders. The end of that bone weighs 100 pounds on either side. Dropping your shoulders open and wide. From there, you may notice more sensation of the back of your shoulders on the mat underneath you. You have more touching the mat now than you did before. Now imagine those tips of your shoulders are being held up by helium balloons. Float them off the floor a little bit. And then the helium balloons release and the 100-pound weights pull them back down towards the floor. Helium balloons lift the shoulders, and then 100-pound weights draw them down. We'll do that one more time. The helium balloons pull them off, they float. And then 100 pounds weight come back. From there, trace back inward on the collarbones, back to the center of your chest. And find your throat, your trachea. There's a tube that runs right in the front of your neck, responsible for your voice. From here, we're gonna do an audible kind of gargle. And then we're gonna close the mouth and hum, just a little. And then an open mouth kind of gargle or grunt. And then closed mouth humming. One more of each of those, noticing how each of those creates some sort of vibration in the trachea, in your throat. And then one last time humming. I'll do that one with you. And using humming and gargling as a tool to awake your trachea if you're about to speak, or you need to clear your throat. Last, we'll come to your jaw here. So coming into the corners of your mouth And you're going to take your tongue and trace along the back left molars of your mouth, across to the front bottom molar teeth, to the back right molars, jump up to the ceiling, upper right molars, trace around to the front, and to the back left molars. And then place your tongue on the roof of your mouth and slightly open your teeth if they aren't already. And take 5 slow inhales through your nose. Release the tongue as you exhale through the mouth. Return the tongue, inhale through the nose. And we're going to go about 3 more of those. And final breath, inhale and exhale. 3 questions as we wrap up our meditation today. Feel one thing in your body that feels alive, awake, supported. One thing you're thankful for. And think of one person who you're going to reach out to today. Maybe you haven't texted them or called them in a while. Just text them to say hi. Go ahead and open up your eyes. Bring yourself alive. Thank you for joining me in your practice. I hope you guys enjoyed the movement 4 in that body scan and sort of anatomy lesson that we just did. If you guys have any questions, comments, feedback, you guys can turn on your videos maybe, and we'll see if that works. Otherwise, you guys can get in touch with Adam if you need to get in touch with me. He can share my information.
Great.
And I hope you guys have a great day.
Thank you so much. It was
Thank
wonderful.
you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Bye-bye.
Stephanie, liked
Thank
it.
you.
You're very welcome. Good. Yeah, I can stop the recording, Adam. Let me see.